Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Q&A show here on All for United. I'm your host, Temi, aka Temi Talks United. Everyone who's on Twitter, everyone who's on Facebook, make sure to join us on youtube.com/All for United. Get us to 30 likes. We're on here for an hour answering all of your questions. Make sure to drop your questions into the comments real quick. All of your questions, if you want to ask one, put Q&A in front of your comment, and I'll make sure to answer it as much as possible. I have a couple questions from Twitter that we've had for the past couple of days I'm going to answer as well. And I'm going to start with the real fun one. Obviously, it's international break. I'm going to ask all of these guys what their best England 11 is. I know most of y'all who are watching with us normally are from England. You know what I'm saying? It's an interesting squad to talk about. I'm not English. I don't really care. I'm rocking this French jersey. I'm not French. You know what I'm saying? I just like talking international football. It's fun. The England squad particularly is really fun because I'm on Twitter and I see all of you with everyone has a different opinion on the lineup. So I think that's a very interesting place to start. I have my opinion. I'm going to share it after these guys, and I'm going to go around the horn and ask the guys. Everyone drop your England 11 into the comments for us. I want to see what y'all are thinking. Also hit that like button for us. I'm going to start with my guy, James. I'm really interested to hear what he has to say. You feel me? This is going to be – I'm very curious. Give me your formation. What you think the England's best formation is. Obviously, y'all blew out San Marino, right? That's nothing. That's nothing. I have I think that's literally the worst international team in the world. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that. Stewart's in the comments with us. What's going on? What's going on, bro? I know you had a question that I'm going to get to on Twitter as well, Stu. But yeah, guys, James, I'm going to start with you. Give me your best England 11 and what you think the best formation is for y'all.
I'll probably say best formation would be definitely 4 at the back. I think this 5 at the back is not working at all. You saw that in the Nations League. It's not like we just don't have the players going forward. Well, we don't have those transition players for it. So we have 4 at the back, 2 holding midfielders, 3 in front of them, and then an attacker on his own up front. So I think you've got to start Henderson in goal. It might be a bit of a United bias, but I just think if it's between Henderson, Pope, and Pickford, I think Pickford's got the distribution. Pope's probably the better shot stopper, but I think Henderson's a perfect combination of both. And I think that will work really well with this England side that are looking to pass it out from the back more and more often. I just think you can't rely on Jordan Pickford after watching what he's done this season. He's not a good shot stopper anymore at all. It's definitely a mistake in him. Then I think just because Southgate just really, really seems to hate Wan-Bissaka, I'll go with Reece James at right back, just because I don't see Wan-Bissaka even going to the Euros. I think if he was going to go, he'd have been called up by now. And then centre backs, he's got to be Maguire and Stones, I think.
Yeah.
Go Stones over Gomez because I'm assuming he's not going to be fully fit yet. And Stones has had obviously a blinding season. But left back, Luke Shaw, goes without saying, best left back in the Premier League. Holding midfielders, it depends whether Jordan Henderson's fit or not because he's looking a bit touch and go. But if he is, I'd go Henderson and Rice. If not, then you maybe bring Mason Mount back there as sort of more of a box to box because you can play that sort of role. But I'll go Henderson just assuming he's fit. And then in front of him, I'd go. They can sort of switch between the 3 of them, but Mount, Grealish, and Sancho up in that 3 role. I just think Sancho over Sterling because I don't think Sterling performs well for England unless he's playing against real bottom of the barrel opposition. And then obviously Harry Kane up front just because he's the captain and you can't not pick him.
That's a good 11 right there. That's a very good 11. So I think I heard Henderson, James, Stones, Maguire, Shaw, Henderson, Rice, Sterling. Did you say Sterling? Sancho,
Grealish, and Mount.
Sancho, Grealish, Mount, and then Harry Kane. That's a good 11. That's a really good 11. I see people in the comments. Everyone, drop your favorite England 11 for us in the comments real quick. You know what I'm saying? That's a very good one. I think mine's pretty similar. I'm gonna let the other guys go around the horn. Aiden, I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this one. Give us your reasoning on your formation and why you think the players you're picking are supposed to be started.
Yeah. So basically, I think mine's quite similar. I think the back 4 is the same. Shaw left back. I think he has to be there. He has to be at left back. Stones and Maguire. I think it's going to be interesting to see how they perform. I think Shaw's got a bit of pace to keep up with them. Because the problem is if you have Stones and Maguire, are they going to be able to be positionally good enough to cover up for the fact they don't really have much pace? But I think that centre-back partnership is the best we have. So I think I put them there. Reece James at right back. I know Trent could play there, but I think the thing is with Trent, you've got to have a system around him that facilitates the type of play that he wants to adopt in the game. So I think Reece James is a better right back. I also think he's better defensively. Henderson in goal. I think other keepers have had good seasons, but I think Henderson's got to go there. Now, with the midfield, I think most teams nowadays, they'll play a 4-2-3 on a lot of big ones out of possession, but they'll play a 4-3-3 in possession. So they'll have one sitter and they'll have someone go forward. Like for Bayern Munich, for example, Kimmich would sit and then Goretzka would go forward. For Man City, like Rodri would sit, Cancelo will tuck in, and then Gundogan would go forward. I'd have Henderson and Rice sitting next to each other. Henderson would be able to get forward if needed, but he could also there'd be a pivot pair. If they're under pressure, they could also slot into the back five if needed, especially Rice. He can make it a back five. There was options at the 10. Personally, I want to put Grealish there because I think if you're going to have someone at the 10, I need them to be able to thread the passes through. I did have him at left wing, but I changed my opinion on that. I put Sancho left wing because I think Sancho, he can play right wing, he can play left wing. I think he's creative. I think he's perfect really for that left wing. Kane up front, obviously. And on the right wing, I've gone for Foden. We don't have any other left-footed players, so I thought on the right wing, we do have options, but I think Foden's probably one of our most natural right wingers. He could also switch with Grealish, Sancho would go to the right, so it's quite fluid. So, yeah, that's what I think. 4-2-3-1 out of possession, 4-3-3 in possession. That's the England 11 I'll go with. Oh, you're muted, bro.
My bad. That was my bad, y'all. Good England 11 there. I can't complain about that. Before I get to Rome, I just wanted to brag a little bit. USA versus Jamaica yesterday. Real good game. My guy Serginho Dest, first goal for the United States. Banger. Played out of position, man of the match. Y'all, you didn't have most of your players, Rome, so I'm not going to give you too much grief, but I had to mention it because you're on the show. You feel me? I had to get my punch in. USA's coming, bro. I'm letting y'all know we got some players. But Rome, I know you're not English like the other two boys here, but I'm sure you watch a lot of Premier League soccer, So I'm sure you know your way around this lineup, like most of us should. What would you do if you were England? This is an outside looking in perspective now. No bias.
Yeah. Apart from the United bias that I have, but yeah, no bias, right? But I would definitely play Pope in the goal. I don't think Henderson's played as much this season for him to be called up to be England's number one, even as much as I'd love him to be. I don't think he's played as much games as he should. For me, right back would be Reece James. I differ a little bit because I really rate Lewis Dunk. So I want Lewis Dunk to be playing for the England team. Him and Maguire should be playing in. I'm not too much of a fan of John Stones, only because I know the type of player that he was. And I feel like after this season, when the pressure comes back with the fans in the stadium, you'll see the real John Stones. And that's my opinion. Left back, of course, would be Luke Shaw. And in the midfield, I think we're sleeping on the age of Jude Bellingham, but I think he's going to be one of the greats to play for England when he gets the opportunity. For him to be such a young age and doing what he's doing in Germany now, I think Jude Bellingham should get a chance in there. So, in my opinion, it should be Declan Rice, Jack Grealish, and Jude Bellingham playing in that midfield. Jack Grealish playing in the 10. Like Aiden said earlier, is in possession it's a 4-3-3, out of possession it's a 4-2-3-1. But up front for me, it'd have to be Rashford on the left, Kane in the middle, and Sancho on the right. Of course, that's got to be the deadliest combination up front you'll find in England right now. But I think that for me, that's my call.
What was that front three again? Say it again.
Rashford left, Kane down the middle, and Sancho on the right.
That is pretty lethal. Those are all good 11s. This is why England, I don't know. Y'all underachieve a lot, man, because we're just naming so many good players. And I'm thinking, like, how do you guys not get into quarterfinals and semifinals more often? It's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen in the Euros. It's a big – I think at a minimum you need to get to a quarterfinal to justify Southgate, staying in a job. But this would be my 11. I thought about it, and I think about it a lot. I don't know why I think about it. It's fun to do because I see it so much on Twitter. I would definitely go with Nick Pope in goal. No, that's no shade to Henderson. Like Rome said, he just doesn't play enough. And on top of it, I think Nick Pope as a shot stopper, I wouldn't want to be playing out of the back if I were you guys. I would want someone who could knock it long, get it to some of those midfield players or Kane. And I think Pope can do that. If I was Gareth Southgate, excuse me, I would play Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I'm sorry. I know how a lot of people complain about his on the ball ability. I think it's way overhyped about his, how bad he is on the ball. I think he's actually decent on the ball. Just not as creative as a Cancelo or a Trent. But defensively, when you're going up against, those top wingers in international play, there's nobody you want more. I would definitely go Stones and Maguire. Lewis Dunk is a fair shot because he's a good center back, definitely a good center back. But I think John Stones is hard to not pick him. Harry Maguire, I think both of those two have the best feet out of all the center backs in England. So those two definitely should be starting. Luke Shaw, obvious at left back. I would go Henderson, Rice, and Mount in the midfield. It sounds really basic because of the work rate. Like I think that work rate, like when you're in the midfield and you're facing people who are gonna, top midfielders, you need players who can win the ball back from the opposition and retain it. And I think all three of those players have that ability. Then on the left, I would go Jack Grealish. A lot of people a lot of people like Jack Grealish like in that 10 position. I just think he can still create from the left just like he would if he was a little bit central. He always drifts inside anyway. I think he has the ability to cross the ball. He has more options in isolation play. And he's just a top player on the left. And that's where I think that's where his favorite position is. So I would go Grealish left wing, obviously up top if Kane is healthy. That's a shoo-in. And then on the right, it's a tough one because you could go Rashford, you could go Sterling, you could go Jadon Sancho, you could even go Foden. But I would go Jadon Sancho, and then you have the options on the bench of Foden, Rashford. There's tons of options you guys would have in the attacking play. So you have that balance in midfield of the workhorses. Then you have the front three that can create. All of them have the ability to create and score goals. And then you have a pretty decent back line there. It's not a top back line, but it's a back line that I think could get you pretty far. Southgate typically plays a back five though, doesn't he? Yeah, he does. And if I were y'all, I'd be really pissed if he went into a Euro competition playing a back five. Ugly Bear says AWB destroyed Neymar, Mbappe, and Sterling and still can't get into the England squad. That says Gareth Southgate is not a good manager. I'll ask the boys a question about AWB real quick so we can start off this Q&A. Everyone make sure to hit the like button as I'm talking. Drop some questions in there for us. I'm going to pull up on my phone the questions I got from Twitter, and then we'll start. I appreciate Stuart. Thank you for the comment. This is a number 10 Sedan jersey. You feel me? I had to rep for internationals. I did Nigeria the other day. Today I'm doing France. Grealish is England's best player. Guys, I'm gonna ask a question about this. So Aiden, would you agree with that? Do you think Grealish is England's best player?
I think he's definitely up there. I think it's Kane, Sancho, and Grealish, England's best three players. In terms of ability and output over the last few years, I'd say probably. I think people like Rashford, people like Sterling have ability in terms of the fact that they've had a lot of output. I do think they've had a good output. I think people like Rice have had good seasons, but I just think the thing about Grealish, Kane, and Sancho is that I think they just have that X factor, like they can do something out of nothing. They can just run past four players, bang a goal in top bins. Kane is one of the best finishers in the world. Grealish is insane dribbling. He's not even fast. He plays the game at his own pace. So, yeah, I'd say they're the three best players. If Grealish is the best, it's still Kane for me. But he's definitely up there, Grealish.
That's a fair shout. All good points. James, what do you think about that?
I sort of agree with what Aiden said. It's definitely a shout for him. I think Grealish is probably one of the only players in that England team that passes both the eye test and the stats test. You look at his creative stats and stuff like that, and they're incredible. But you watch him on the eye, and he's such an entertaining player to watch. Like every single pass he picks is the correct pass. It's easy to sit and watch on television and look at all the options that a player's got on the pitch, and he picks the wrong one, and you're thinking, oh, why did he pass to him? That's never the case with Grealish. It's very rare that he will ever play the wrong pass or shoot when he's not supposed to, or pass when he should have shot, or anything like that. His decision making is so incredible, and that will be the difference between winning and losing big games in those defining moments. But I'm sort of in agreement that Kane is probably our best player. I think he's the only player in our team that is arguably the best in his position in the world. I think really at the minute there's only Lewandowski that comes close to a number 9 like Kane. You know, his whole game is just sublime. So I'd say Kane is probably our best, but like Aiden said, I completely agree with him. It's probably between Grealish and Sancho underneath him.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I'm gonna let Rome come into this as well. I definitely agree with both of you, but I think within a year's time, I think that's Jack's crown. I really believe that. Like you mentioned, you brought up a great point, James. Of there's a special talent in making the correct decision every single time. Like that, when you watch Jack Grealish play, it's like he glides on the pitch. It's rare he makes a mistake. It's rare I see him make a flick or do a dumb flick or, you know, pick out a wrong pass. And that's something I criticize Rashford for constantly. It's, you know, Rashford gets it right, you know, maybe one every 3 times. Whereas Jack Grealish, it's like every single time he makes a decision, it's the right decision. So I completely agree with that. Rome, do you think Jack Grealish has a shout, or you agree with the boys that it's Kane? Oh, you're on mute, bro.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard to make a case against Jack Grealish, to be honest, but you have to admit that Kane is over the years has been consistently the best player that England has produced, club level and even on an international level. He took over for Rooney, and obviously we know there's no way he's not going to break that record that Rooney has. So I do think Kane is the best player that England has produced so far. But Jack Grealish, if he continues in the vein that he is right now and moves to a bigger club and continue to play the way he is right now, he's probably going to be the best in a year or so.
That's a good shout. I saw an interesting USA question I'm going to answer real quick, and then we'll get to another cool question I saw. Where did it go? Temi, who would you prefer, Dest or Wan-Bissaka? That's such a tough one. That's not even a fair question, honestly. Like, I think Dest on the ball is like majestic. I'm not even trying to exaggerate. He was ridiculous yesterday watching him play. Obviously, it's you know, not great competition. Jamaica didn't have their full squad, but he was playing out of position, and he was miles and miles and miles the best player on the pitch. His link play, his ability to cut inside. They asked him after the game, like, what position do you prefer, right back or left back? He's like, it just depends on the day. I was like, oh my God, this guy, man, is dipping gravy. I would probably lean towards Serginho Dest, but I'm a huge AWB fan, so I'm not even gonna, you know, disrespect my man. I love AWB, and I think he's extremely underrated now. My guy Stuart Woolley says, agreed, ref Grealish, but we need to see him against the very best to really determine his level. That's a great point. I mean, I think Grealish is. I think the way he plays in the league week in and week out that's hard to argue what he's doing. That's really hard to argue what he's doing. This guy says, Ugly Bear says, who is Dest? Man, you got to watch some more football outside of the Premier League, man. You got to. This man starts for Barcelona week in, week out. It's like, you got to know who he is. John Kermode, a really interesting question here. And I think it's one that's tied to United, so we love it here. Everyone, make sure to keep dropping your questions into the Q&A chat. You feel me? Put Q&A in front of your question like my guy John Kermode did. I love this question. Which one current England player would improve United's team the most, who is not already a United player? That's a very good question. So we have the likes of Grealish, Mount, John Stones, Reece James, you know, players that are really good that definitely would improve our squad. I'm gonna start with Rome because this is an interesting question. What are you feeling about this one, bro?
Without a doubt, Declan Rice. I'm just gonna leave it right there.
Wow. No. You gotta give me a reason. I know what the reason is, but you have to say it. You have to
think
say
about
it.
You talk about how bad our right wing is, and yes, we want Jadon Sancho, and I know everyone's choice is going to be Jadon Sancho. You talk about how bad our supposed defense is, but if you think where we have faltered in the entire season, it's because we've had 2 defensive midfielders playing in front of our defense, because the 2 of them back there are so slow, and we need extra security right there, like we're guarding the Royal Rumble or something. You know what I mean? What we need is one midfielder who's able to do that job right there. the job that Kante does, the job that Ndidi does, the job that Declan Rice is doing right now, breaking up play and linking with the forward line. Declan Rice, he does that, and he can dribble the ball past somebody. Fred cannot. You know what I mean? Fred, his attributes is great in terms of breaking up the play. He can do that, but he can't do anything else properly, and he can't score for shit either. So I think, without a doubt, if we get Declan Rice into that position right there, we don't need to play McTominay next to him. We can have Pogba now freed up, or anyone else that plays in the midfield along with Bruno. The reason why Bruno looks so sloppy a lot of times in big games is because he's there in the midfield by himself, because McTominay and Fred are back there worried about our opponents attacking our defenders. So
no, fair shout. I'm interested to see if Aiden and James agree. Who would you go for there, Aiden?
I got to agree. I have to say Declan Rice. I think my other choice is potentially Kane. I mean, I am a Martial stan, so it's not like criticism on Martial. I just think Kane potentially could have been. But I think, like it's already been said, really, I think the funny thing is with our centre-backs, all problems start because you have having to play two DMs instead of just having one there. Because realistically, if you have centre-backs that are good enough, you don't always need to have two DMs. You don't need to have a DM that's like Rice or an Ndidi level. You can get away with like a mid-ish DM if your centre-backs are competent enough at defending, really. But because they're so bad as a pairing, you have to have two DMs, or you have to have a DM the level of Declan Rice. And for me, when Pogba has to track back all the time, it's not something that he's supposed to be doing. Really, he's in advanced state. Like has already been said, he can't link with Bruno, and it also then affects the front three. Because if in the front three, Bruno's going around the whole of the midfield trying to run around, no one's sitting there to be able to link the front three to the midfield to then link it to the whoever's at DM. So it ends up affecting the entire pitch. So for me, I'd say Declan Rice. And also one thing about Rice is, he can do those balls over the top. So even if Pogba's not deep lying, Declan Rice could still ping them over for Rashford, because Declan Rice is very, very good at that. He's one of the only DMs in the world, and Diddy can't do that. So that's another thing Declan Rice is sick at, in my opinion. Yeah.
Fair shout. James, would you agree Declan Rice would improve us the most out of the England crop that isn't already at United?
I think he probably would in a general sense, but I'll change it up a little bit just to be a bit different. And I think if we sign Rice as well, it means we don't sign Ndidi, which would be my preferred option. So I'll go with Jack Grealish, just because know what, there's not a team in the world that he wouldn't improve. I don't think. He's everywhere on the pitch. He takes so much of a workload off Bruno. I think Bruno's goals and assists go up even more with Grealish. I think he will massively help to unpick these deep blocks that we struggle with so much, because his ability to just play a quick 1-2 with someone, just find a gap that's not even there and all stuff like that. I think I don't think there's any more 0-0 draws if we have Jack Grealish in the side. I'll put it that way.
That's a fair shout. I think I agree with you. I think the obvious, we desperately need a DM. That's no secret. So Declan Rice is the most logical choice there. He's young. He's a captain of West Ham's a big club, right? He's captaining that side at 22 years old. You have to give him his props. I know a lot of people kind of are hit and miss on Declan Rice. It's either you kind of really like him or you're kind of like, no, I'm not a big fan. But Jack Grealish. I think there's something about Jack Grealish that I think he's a Madrid quality player. I think he's a Barca quality player. I really do. I think he'd improve those teams, like James was saying. On the left-hand side, I love Marcus Rashford, but me picturing Jack Grealish on that left-hand side as opposed to I just think it's a major upgrade. I don't even think it's a little. I think it's a major upgrade. What Bruno could do on that side, like when you see, Bruno playing with better players around him, players who can retain the ball, who force him to play the way they play. I think it makes Bruno a better player. I think Pogba would link up great with him. His work rate is something that's not talked about because he's such a good, offensive player, but he tracks back. He can win tackles. He's a wonderful player. I think I'd go with Jack Grealish. What a player. There's another question in my messages here. I'm going to pull it up really quickly. It's from our guy Hama. It's a Manchester United related question. I'm not going to, obviously I can't post it, but guys, keep dropping your questions and keep hitting the like button. Actually, let me get in the comments real quick to see if I've missed anything. Not really, guys. Keep dropping your comments. Our guy Hama, Hama United, one of the contributors here, referring to United, he says, "Do you guys think one of the issues with inconsistency in some of our players is due to the shirt being too much pressure, like the weight of the shirt being too big?" Don't think anyone really thinks about it with all of our ups and downs. So he's essentially asking, like, is the pressure of being a Manchester United player one of the big reasons that some of these players, can't perform week in and week out? I think that's a pretty good question. It's a fair question. I'm going to start with James. What do you think about that?
I think yes and no. I think in a footballing sense, it's probably not so much, because I think if they just arrived, fair enough. But I think a lot of these first team players have been here long enough now to sort of embrace it, and they've been part of that United culture for long enough to sort of accept that this is the biggest club in the world and you've got to do well here. I think that's what we're seeing with Van der Beek and why he can't settle in as well. Obviously, there's massive tactical issues with why Van der Beek's not playing well, but there could also be that step up from Ajax to United, because Ajax in their own right are a massive club, but they're not on the level of United. But I think in terms of a media standpoint, that pressure is huge, because the media sort of, I don't want to say agenda because you sound a bit football twittery, but there is a media agenda against United, and there has been since Sir Alex Ferguson came in. He used to call them ABUs, didn't he? And it's still going on. So I think the media scrutiny you put under as a United player is ridiculous. I think you just got to look at the way Rashford. I know Rashford and Greenwood is probably more of a race thing than a United thing, but any United player that starts misperforming, there's a whole agenda about him in the media. The whole Paul Pogba thing. I mean, that's very debatable as to whether it's race or just the fact that he plays for United. But you can't be a United player and not be subject to bad speculation in the press. And I think that is a big thing in terms of pressure that United players face.
Fair points. All great points. Aiden, what do you think about that? Do you think, some of these players are a lot, or maybe most of the players that, it's just the pressure of being a Manchester United player is kind of too much?
I think pressure is probably not the correct words. I'd say a misunderstanding. I'd say, I think a lot of players at the moment don't understand what it means to play for Man United. And I don't mean that in the fact that they don't appreciate the club. I don't mean that in the fact they don't put effort in. But I don't think they realise how you conduct yourself. And I mean that, for example, like when Maguire, quite often he'll post statistical analysis of the fact he's been on the pitch. He'll post stuff about, I did X, Y, I got X statistic, I did Y statistic. Or you have other players that I feel there's not enough leaders in the dressing room to say you need to act professionally, because I think the mentality also, a lot of the time, even on the pitch, I know I'm using Maguire again, but there was an incident when Martial got the red card, and then Rashford said, to the ref, like, why are you sending him off? And Maguire said, no, the ref said it was a red card, it's fine. So I think, for me, there's quite a lot of players in the squad that, one, I don't think understand the level of maturity you need to have on the football pitch. Not in terms of like you're not putting effort in, just have the mentality of a Man United player, the toughness, the rough edges, to be able to smash into tackles, knowing how to stand up for yourself. It's a lot of timidness, and I think that comes to fruition when we bottle a lot of these under pressure games. So I don't think it's like the pressure per se in terms of the media, but I think we need to have a bit more backbone, if that makes sense. It's sort of hard to articulate, but it comes out in the semi-finals, if that makes, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
No, that's a fair shout. One of the things I hate more than anything is after a loss, when the players tweet out like, "Oh, we're so sorry. We're gonna get it. We'll get it next time." And it's just like, bro, shut up. Like, it's like, shut up. I not want to see you tweeting or posting an IG post apologizing to us. Just play better next time. Rome, what do you think about it? It's an interesting question about the weight of the shirt. I'll get my opinion in after you, but do you think a lot of these players it's kind of a lot for them?
I think it's the expectation that is set on these players that you're required to perform week in, week out on a consistent basis. If you're a leader of the club, if you're tasked to be the leader of the club, you need to be leading by example. We seem to forget that Maguire played 2 seasons with Leicester. Prior to that, he was at Sheffield in the Championship or something like that. And then you bring him to Manchester United, and now he's expected to be the leader of a club as big as Manchester United. Of course, he's not going to be doing well in that aspect. Luke Shaw got a bad injury, and he said it in an interview the other day that Ole has done so much to build his confidence, and with his confidence comes consistency. We have to start asking ourselves, are these players confident in themselves, knowing that they're playing for the greatest club in the world and they belong there? We neglect the psychological effect the Jose Mourinho era had on players like Martial and Pogba himself. The treatment of those players had on what they're doing now, and 2.5 to 3 years under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, is he able to get them back to where they were, or to get them playing at their utmost best? So I think it's more than just to say the weight of the shirt is holding him down. I think it has a lot to do with their psychological development, because they're all young too. Remember, these guys are all young. Their average age is 24, 25.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. That's an amazing point of, the youth in the side. That's when I see our, people put out their transfer wants, and I see a lot of players or a lot of people on Twitter, they want more young players. And I'm like, no, we need more leaders in that, desperately. We need more 30 somethings. And that's not an exaggeration. People think that when you're 30, it's like a FIFA thing. You know how when you play FIFA and you get to that in the career mode, you get to 30 and then it's dropping off. That's literally how people think about older players, and it's just not the case. More often than not, a Champions League winning side has multiple 30-somethings, or people have been playing and winning at the highest level. I think that's the biggest issue. I don't think it's necessarily the shirt is too big for some of these players. I just think they haven't learned. There's not enough people who have won at the highest level. It's that simple. I love Bruno, really, really excellent player. He hasn't won at the highest level. The only people who really have, Juan Mata doesn't play. Nemanja Matic doesn't really play. Paul Pogba, obviously. Rashford's won a couple trophies with us. But in the context of winning constant Premier Leagues, winning Champions Leagues, we don't have enough of those players. So when it's time for a semifinal, when it's time for a quarterfinal, our players haven't been there and done that. Our manager hasn't been there and done that. So it's a mixture of all of those things coming together. You feel me? And it's a tricky battle to run, but we'll see, man. I don't know. This year is interesting to me. More conversations about the DM role. We got a question for Aiden here. United Insight says, Aiden, I've seen you wax lyrical about Benacer on your Twitter. Who would you take between him and Declan Rice?
Do you know what the thing is? I've been asked this question a lot. The thing is, for me, I'd say I prefer Banaka in terms of defensive discipline. If you watch Banaka, a lot of the time, he'll track his man. He's really good at tracking his man and getting a tackle in. And I think his defensive work rate. For me, Rice, I do think he's a defensive player. But I think the thing about West Ham is everyone does their job so well. You've got a 10. Lingard's a perfect example of a 10. Antonio holds up the ball well. Souček does his job. That Rice isn't asked to run around the pitch as much. But when I watch Banaka, I feel like defensively, I prefer him to Rice. If you're talking about in terms of passing range, I think Rice is better. I think he's much better. But if you've got someone like Pogba on the field, that's not really a reason to buy Rice. Banaka will be a lot cheaper. He'd probably be about 40 million cheaper. Plus, he's been a little bit injured this season. So, to be honest, I'd probably take Banaka. I'd prefer Banaka. And I think he's more technically gifted. I think he's better on the ball. But that's just my opinion. Obviously, Rice has the passing range, but he'd be half the price Banaka, I'm telling you that.
Interesting. I haven't watched too much of AC Milan this season, honestly. I've watched more of Inter because they're more fun to watch to me. I can't lie. I enjoy watching Conte's teams. But yeah, no, I am of the opinion that, if I don't know too much about a player and they come to my side, I have to give them a few games to see how they would do. I've seen Benacer play. I wouldn't be the person to say, how people, they'll watch somebody for a game and then they'll act as if they know that player, back in their hand, stop it, just stop. So, I'm not going to do that. I'm very honest about my footballing opinions. I'll tell you when I don't know something, when I do know something. Interesting one. How about Kessian and Ndidi? Good defensively and decent passers. The thing about Ndidi is his passing is so underrated. And I'm not talking about his long range pass. I'm talking about, the simple, the 1-2s, driving forward with the ball. If he's press resistant, that's something that's underrated. Like if he's under pressure, he's going to make the right pass and he's not going to lose the ball, like other players in our side do. Fred. So he's a very good passer. I just had to. I'm sorry. I love Fred, but man, this season he's broken my heart, man. He's not good enough. I just have to say it. I have to say it. But no, I'll ask James. What do you think about the Kessie and Didi thing? Obviously, we all saw Frank Kessie essentially dominate our midfield for about three halves essentially before Paul Pogba came in. What do you think about him? And then would you take a cheaper option like a Kessie in that DM role, James?
I haven't seen enough of Kessie to say with authority that we should or shouldn't sign him. I think from what I've seen of him, he's a very raw player, but that's not always a bad thing. He's an incredibly powerful player, and that's something that will go down well in the Premier League. And obviously, he's got passing ability to complement that. But I'm still going with Ndidi. I suppose it all depends on what United want, because if you're looking for a defensive specialist, you're going to go with Ndidi. If you want someone with passing range, you probably statistically want to go with someone like Locatelli from Sassuolo or someone like that who's really putting up numbers passing wise. Or if you want a bit of a mix of both where they're not perfect at either, then you go with Declan Rice. It just all depends on what specifically you want, because Declan Rice is an incredible player along with Kessie. But if you look at it from a statistical standpoint, they're not excelling in either. They're just good at both, if that makes sense. So it all depends on where United stand in terms of recruitment.
Great shout. I want Rome's thoughts on this as well. Like James just mentioned, Kessie he's better than Fred and McTominay. Let's just start there. Like I don't think it takes 3 or 4 games to watching Kessie to know that he's just an upgrade in those positions. I am of the belief that Ali is going to play, even if we let's say we get a specialist DM. I think Ali's still going to play a 4-2-3-1. I think he likes that solidity in the Premier League specifically. He's quite pragmatic. Contrary to popular belief, at least in the league. A lot of people have talked about his time at Molde. He played a 4-3-3 that was more like a Liverpool type, pressing, but it's, he had the best team. Now he's a little bit more pragmatic with the way he goes about it. I don't have too much of a problem with that outside of, when we go forward and we build up. That's where I have the real issue. But what do you think about Frank Kessie? Would you take him? He's obviously a cheaper option. Indeed, he's going to cost. I mean, we bought Harry Maguire for £80 million. I can't imagine what we'd ask for Wilfred Ndidi. So what do you think there, Rome?
So it depends on what aspect you want to take it from. To me, if you go for Ndidi, you need to know that it's going to cost an arm and a leg. But what you get from Ndidi is you get that defensive speciality, like what James said. You don't have to worry about looking over your shoulder, because Maguire and Lindelof per se are safe with Ndidi in front of them. But with Kessie, what you get is that strong, that security right there in the midfield. That if he goes into a 50-50, there's a 70 to 80% chance that he's coming out winning. And you get that goal scoring threat that Ndidi just doesn't have, because Kessie can get the ball in the net as well. So for me, my money would be for Ndidi, just because of the Premier League aspect of it. He's already proven and he knows what to do in the Premier League. We can't say that about Kessie. Not everyone can adapt to the Premier League like knife to butter, like Bruno. You know what I mean?
No, all fair points. It's a tough one. I the way we've been playing recently, honestly, and that quote unquote double pivot. I know some people don't like that term. Just those two midfield positions. I'm of the belief we might need to buy 2 midfielders. Like I'm not exaggerating. Like before we do anything else, let's get that core right. Let's get that stabilized. Put a front. If it's, you can play a Kessie and Didi. Kessie can push a little bit forward and then have the creativity of a Pogba, Bruno further up the pitch. But we desperately need better players in those positions. John Silk says, I'm so unsure about where we need strengthening and who would be right. I'm assuming he said, let's just go out for Haaland, job done. We can turn this into a question real quick. Would Erling Haaland be somebody you'd be chasing this summer? I'm just gonna go ahead and say no. That'd be the last thing on my book. I would not go and get Erling Haaland this summer. It's just, to me, that is classic United looking for Galactico when they should be building their squad. I'm going to ask James, do you disagree with me?
I mean, you're not going to turn down Erling Haaland, are you? You got guaranteed the best striker in the world at some point in his career. I think as long as we can, if we sign him, as long as we could keep him on that path, I think we have a bad record of ruining players ability-wise as soon as they come to Old Trafford. So as long as that didn't happen, then, you know, I'd be all for it. But there are massive negatives that come with him as well. You know, the price tag is one. The fact that he's massively going to hinder Mason Greenwood's development is another one, because there's no reason to say that Mason Greenwood can't become one of the best strikers in the world, given the relevant amount of game time and coaching and everything. And then you've got to deal with Mino Raiola as well, who, you know, we don't have a good history with, and he's going to be looking to move Haaland on in a couple of seasons after he joins United. So I'd probably stay away from him. He's definitely shouldn't be a priority in my eyes. But, you know, if it came to sort of if he was the only signing of the summer, I probably wouldn't be gutted about it, because you've got a guaranteed at least 20 goal a season striker.
Aiden, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think he'd definitely be one of the best strikers in the world at some point in his career. The only thing that would stop me wanting to get him is the fact of Mino Raiola, because I know, Mino Raiola, realistically, obviously he's been at Salzburg, then he's obviously come to Dortmund. He'll probably be at Dortmund for like another year or so, maybe go this summer, he'll go to United, but he's obviously going to go to Real Madrid or Barcelona the season after. You know, Raiola wants increasing agent fees, Haaland wants increasing wages, and he wants a stepping stone, he wants the perfect career. You know, why shouldn't he? But if it was me and I had the choice, would I rather invest the money in maybe Banaka and, I don't know, or Sancho than Haaland? I'd much rather get Sancho and a Banaka, because I know that Sancho and Banaka will be here for the rest of the careers. That is the only thing that stops me, is because he'll leave. Also, we don't create chances for our strikers. So it's like, we'll get Haaland. He'll score goals undoubtedly, but not as many as he should, which is the key thing. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. Rome, what do you think about this?
I'm going to go with no. I think Haaland, first of all, why go for him now and pay 140 mil when next year is going to cost like 70, 60 mil. If we do go for him. Secondly, we've been on this chat for 40-something minutes. We haven't addressed the elephant in the Zoom, which is Pogba is going to be leaving. He doesn't want to be here. And so we'll have to replace Paul Pogba. And so I think worrying about, you know, getting Erling Haaland is going to be a problem for next year. But if Paul Pogba leaves, not only does that leave a massive hole in our midfield, now we have to replace it. Now we have to get a right winger, a midfielder, a number 8, basically, and also a defender. So we have bigger problems, I think, than having to worry about paying 140 mil for Erling Haaland. Yeah. Where, you know, Harry Kane will be looking for a team next year because they won't win anything. He's going to end up like Alan Shearer if he doesn't move and go play for a club that's going to win him something. So
at least Shearer got a title. Shearer's got a title.
So I think Haaland should be backbench for now, to be honest with you. We have more important stuff.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I just think the Erling Haaland, it would be very Lukaku-esque. Like he would score goals, but in terms of the build-up, I don't think he's gonna contribute to the build-up as much as people would think. You know what I'm saying? Yes, he's gonna score goals because he's just a goal scorer, but in terms of the way we play, I don't think he's gonna contribute much to that. I think he runs in behind more than anything. He plays those Dortmund creative players they're all wonderful creative players. You know, you have the likes of Brandt, Royce, Sancho. I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, he's getting chances out of his ass. I'm sorry, just for lack of a better term. They're just coming all the time. So it's going to be a different proposition. I think Kane would help Greenwood's progression personally. Interesting. I thought the same thing about Cavani, but he's kind of gotten worse. Honestly. Did you guys see that interview with Mason Greenwood where he's like, they asked him, like, you know, how has Cavani helped you with your development? He's like, I mean, we don't really speak the same language, but you know, it's like he's like good to watch in training, essentially. I'm like, oh, okay, so yeah, he's not talking to Cavani like ever. It's like, I'm like, okay, that's good to know. Our big chances created is actually improving. Currently, only 4 behind Liverpool this season. How does that even? That's not a good thing.
Probably like 8.
Yeah, I feel like it's not a good thing. Liverpool aren't that good this season. We won't need Haaland if we get Grealish and keep Pogba. Trust me, I 100% agree with that. Let me get another. I got a question from Stu here. This is more for you guys because I'm not much of a football boot head. But Stuart asked, what are the greatest football boots of all time, and what are the personal favorites of the panel? I only played one organized year of soccer here in the States, aka football. I had some like boring ass Umbros. Like there's just nothing. Like I'm not a football head, or a football boot head. So I'm interested. I know Rome, you played at a pretty high level. Aiden and James, I'm curious I'm going to start with Rome. What are your favorites of all time? Oh, you're on mute, bro.
My bad. I'd say the boots that got me watching football in the first place and got me into Manchester United was Adidas Predators that Beckham used to wear. They were the first pair of boots that I got when I was a kid back in Jamaica, and to this day, I love playing in them, and I have a pair myself. So definitely the Predators.
Oh wow. Okay. Aiden, what are yours?
Funnily enough, yeah, I was actually sitting next to my pairs of boots, my 2 favorite ones. So I've only had like 2 or 3 pairs of boots in my life. I still currently use these Hypervenoms. They're one of my favorite boots. I love the way they fit. They're any type of Hypervenom. Remember the original OG neon orange colorway? That's sick. They've got a hole in them. I need to get new ones, but it's my current favorite. But these ones, in terms of historic, they're tiny. Like one of my first pairs of boots, the F50s. Remember when Messi came out with these, and I watched a trailer with my mates, and I went back into school. I was like, oh my God, have you seen like Messi's got the thing? And I downloaded the video of it onto my iPod Nano to show my mates. So yeah, this, mate, oh my days, these boots, this is historic for me. So I love these, man.
Oh, too good. James, how about you, bro? What are yours?
I'm going to go personal favorite and greatest of all time, probably Copa Mundials. I think you just keep it basic. Adidas, black and white, the referees' boots, but they ooze class. I think any solid centre midfielder has got to have a pair of Copa Mundials, so I'm going to go with them. I think just timeless as well. They never will look bad.
Very nice. I like that. This is an interesting question from Ugly Bear, more tied to the manager. Q&A, is it Judgment Day season for Ole Solskjaer next season? Does Ole need to deliver the Premier League championship? I'll start with this one and I'll go around the horn. To answer your specific question, does he need to deliver a Premier League next season? No. I doubt that's going to be what the board and, management, the front office are looking for. Especially we've already heard all these, he's already kind of started to warn us. There's not that much money. You shouldn't expect too much in this window. He's already let us know that. You know what I'm saying? They've started preparing the excuses for us early. So I'm already preparing my mind that we're not gonna be excited this transfer window. So they know. I think what they want is sustainability, and that's staying in the top 4, staying in the Champions League. Competing for cups for cups. But I do think he needs a trophy. I think a trophy. If we go, what is it, 4? Would that be 5 seasons without a trophy? That's kind of damning. I don't think it's the league is his aim, but I think if he doesn't get it, let's say he doesn't get a trophy this season, and he bows out early in some competitions, it would look very, very bleak for him the season after next. I'm going to go to James. What do you think about that?
I wouldn't say he has to live the Premier League, especially if he's going to get given like his 50p transfer budget this summer. But I think the thing to base him off is this progression, because the thing he's getting credit for, and the reason he's buying his time in that sense, is the fact that we are seeing constant progression. He's not taken a step backwards in his career so far at United, really, in my opinion. Anyway, he's really steadied the ship. He's really cleaned out every bad thing that Mourinho did. Solskjaer sort of repaired in that sense behind the scenes, and we're seeing progression on the pitch as well, like league position, points, totals, and everything. So I think if we stop seeing that progression next season, if we take a step backwards, that's when you start to think maybe his time's up, because as long as we keep seeing constant progression, eventually success will come. That's a given. But I think the reason Ole's been given as much time as he has, and the reason he will get as much time as he has, because of his constant progression. So as soon as that stops, that's when you've got to start asking questions.
Fair shout. Aiden, I'm going to go with you. What do you think here?
Yeah, I don't think he should be expected to win the Premier League next year. I think we need to be aware of the absolute donuts that we have in charge in the Glazers and everyone else that's basically not Ole. I'm quite Ole out. I'm not his biggest fan, but to be expecting to win the Premier League with the squad we have right now is ridiculous. It's just like we don't have the DM, we don't have the striker, we don't have the backup right back, we don't have a right winger, we don't have a centre back. Like there's so many things we don't have. The reason I get frustrated is because I think he needs to do the basics right, like McFred, substitutions on time, winning some even small trophies, system. He doesn't do them right. But that's not really what the question is asking. Can he win the Premier League? Should he be expected to? No, not with this squad. No one should be expected to win the Premier League with the squad. If someone won the Premier League with the squad, I'd be saying one of the best feats ever, just purely because of the competition that they have. So no way. No one's going to win the Premier League with the Happy Meal McField. So no, that's not going to happen. No.
Oh, that's too funny. Rome, what do you think about this? I think it's pretty much across the board. People are thinking the same thing. Oh, you're on mute again, bro.
I'm still mute. Yeah, in keeping with the food analogy, I mean, you can't ask for a steak with hamburger money, bro. It doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? It depends on what they offer all of this season, this summer. Like you can't go ahead and give this man Ismail Assar, Tyrone Mings, and then expect this man to deliver the Premier League. We'd be lucky if we don't improve on our squad to even win a trophy next season, because it's not going to be the same circumstances this season as it is next season as it is for this season. So we all have our reservations for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. For a man who made his living off of being a substitute, seems to hate making substitutions. But set aside our reservations that we have for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as a tactician, as a manager, I don't think the wallets that are running this club are going to be able to provide any sorts of resources for him to deliver. So his faith depends on the resources that they give him. So that's it.
Yeah, those are all fair points. Let's get in the comments real quick. It says, depends on what we achieve this season. If we don't win a trophy, he definitely has to win a trophy next season. If we do win Europa League this season and finish second. But next season is critical. Joel Abraham says he's got to play better next season, have a defined style of play to compete, maybe win a cup or two, and hopefully the board back him with quality players that can win us the Prem. It's a tough one, and I'm gonna ask a question to the guys. We're coming up on an hour, so guys, make sure to drop. If you have any questions, we're gonna hang up on the hour. If you have any questions, make sure to drop your final ones in here. It's already been a fun Q&A session. You feel me? We've got a lot of good topics in. Stuart says, going to be interesting to see what other teams will bring in, not just us. Yes, I think Chelsea and City are going to spend big again. I can just see it. I think Chelsea are going to get themselves a striker. It's going to be slow. I don't know which one they're going to get, but I think out of the Kane, I think Kane and Haaland, they might get one of those two. I really do. It's going to be interesting to see, but I think I agree with the guys here. The squad's not good enough to, compete against Cities. I think Chelsea's squad is going to improve. I think Liverpool, Van Dijk is going to be back. But the unfortunate part about it is, like we mentioned, we have the Glazers, running this club, and they don't know. The people they've appointed don't know how to buy players properly. Every time I think about Bayern Munich's side that won the Champions League last season, and you figure out that starting 11 costed less than £100 million. Actually, it cost less than £90 million. It's like, what the hell are we doing? Like, what the hell are we actually doing in terms of building a squad? It's going to be interesting to see. Jacob says we have to upgrade on Martial, Matic, McTominay, and Fred, and either start Ahmad week in and week out or buy another right winger. There's probably a few more players that we could upgrade on if we're being frank. But I'm going to ask the guys a question about Marcus Rashford. There was some more reports saying that he's not going to play for England for any of those games. He had some bleeding in his bone. I think that's what the report said. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. But that injury seems to be way more serious than the club is trying to let on. And it's frustrating me because this guy is going to ruin his career. You know what I'm saying? Give me your thoughts. I'll start with James. Give me your thoughts on the Marcus Rashford health situation and what you think needs to be done.
I mean, the way it's going, he's not going to be able to walk by the time he's 35, is he? So we are like, it's already becoming very apparent that he's just going to, the way it's going, he's going to become another Wayne Rooney, where he starts to decline at the age of like 27, 28. So it's worrying. I think realistically, if we could afford to, we just need to give him like a long period out of the team, maybe even up to like, well, depending on how long, but you could maybe sacrifice a year of not winning a title to fully regenerate Marcus Rashford's body, because the way he's going, like he's going to be a quality player, but he's not going to be a quality player for very long, and that it'd be heartbreaking to see, wouldn't it? Someone that's risen through the academy, made a name for himself, made such an impact on society, and then he has to retire at the age of 28 because we couldn't afford to drop him when his bones were literally breaking. So I just really hope at some point we can afford to give him a really long rest, or maybe some other injury comes along which forces him to be out for a long period of time so he can fully recover from everything.
That's great shout, bro. Very frustrating situation. Aiden, you want to share your thoughts on that real quick?
Yeah, I'm just as worried, really. I think the thing about Rashford specifically is he's a player that really heavily relies on his athleticism. And the thing is about Rooney is, yeah, he started declining, as said, about 27, 28, but he had the technical ability to be able to fall back to midfield. You know, the passing range, he ended up as a deep line playmaker. Rashford doesn't have that. You know, Rashford is a pace and power type of player, and there's not really a criticism on him. You know, I don't think he will be up there with the top level of Mbappe, but when you've got a player like that, you really need to look after your body. And he's not like a stocky guy. He's a slimmer guy. And if you keep on messing yourself up, it's going to catch up with you eventually. So for me, like, look, if we get knocked out of the Europa League, just bench Rashford for the rest of the season. Don't play him because we've got nothing else to play for. We're going to get top four. We go out of all the cups. I don't see why he needs to play. As I said, if you're injured and you're injured yourself while injured, that can end your career. If he's injured already, like his ankle, and then he breaks it or something, that could destroy his entire career. So I'd honestly rather, if we go out the Europa League, just bench him for the rest of the season. Keep him safe.
Yeah, no, that's a fair shout. Rome, how do you feel about this, bro?
Man, I don't get the eagerness to be playing Rashford so often, so much, even when he's injured. It seems that Solskjaer won't even substitute him unless he's on a stretcher, bro. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. I think Rashford is running the risk of becoming just like Wayne Rooney, as Aiden said a second ago, if he doesn't sit back. You look at Cristiano Ronaldo, what's that man, like 36, 34, 37? And he's still in beast mode because he's taking care of his body, and he's been doing that since he was a young kid. I've heard interviews of Patrice Evra telling us how a Ronaldo carries himself after training, before training, the stuff that he eats, because you have to take care of yourself for you to have a long career in football. Injuries will come, but you know, forcing yourself to play. There's no way Rashford should have been called up on that in the England squad. After you got substituted at halftime in your last game, you should have never even thought about going there to play against San Marino, bro. You know, it's not like this is the beginning of the Euros and you have to make it there. You should have never gone over there to even train with them. Just stay home and chill for the next couple of weeks and recover. He's gonna run the risk of not even being healthy for the Euros in the summer.
It's so frustrating. For me, the United medical staff, it's really disappointing how they're like. There has to be some level of authority there where you say, listen, you have to tell the manager, look at the manager in his face and say, he's not playing. He is not fit to play. Like, it's getting like, it's sad because the England medical staff assess him and they're saying he can't play. Like, he can't play. Like, what like you ship him off to England and then they assess him and they're saying he's not fit to play. So what does that say about our medical staff and how they're handling the situation? It's really scary. It's really scary. How have they handled Eric? It makes me think, okay, how have they handled Eric Bailly? What have they recommended? What have they done with him or other players who got injured and it seems like they can't bounce back the right way? Dallo was injured perpetually at United, and now he plays for AC Milan. He doesn't miss games. So it's a really, really scary thought. Really, really scary thought. I really hope Marcus Rashford listens to his body more. Yes, it's great to be a trooper, but bro, you gotta chill out. You gotta chill out. We're worried about your health every day, and I hope this is a lesson. I hope this England, shock is a lesson for the United staff that get it up, get it up. Stuart O'Hara says Q&A just for how badly are your boys gonna get beat on Sunday? So the United States are facing Northern Ireland on Sunday. I don't think we're losing that game, bro. Stuart, I'm going to let you know right now. We're probably going to play a much better side than we did versus Jamaica. I think Daryl DK is going to be back and healthy. He's banging in goals in the championship. Dest might play on the right this game. We might bring in Anthony Robinson. Chris Richards
Can we just say that you played Jamaica's B team, and because you've been saying it since the season started, since the episode, and you played our B team, bro.
That's fair. It wasn't the best. It wasn't the best team. But that being said, we didn't play our best 11 either. We didn't play our best 11 either. No Chris Richards, no Anthony Robinson, no McKennie. Weston McKennie didn't play. Tyler Adams didn't play. Those are our two best midfielders. So I'm just saying, I'm a little gassed right now. I can't lie.
We're going neck and neck to qualify for the World Cup. It's gonna be fun.
That's fair. Nigeria plays tomorrow. I can't wait for that game. AFCON qualifier. We're top of the table right now. I told myself I'm going to get my international teams their shout-outs every time I'm on a stream now. So big game tomorrow against Sierra Leone. We're going to get that win. Fun question here. Q&A. Who would you all have as your number one center back target? My top two would be Sergio Ramos and, Kalidou Koulibaly. That's kind of a toss-up of which one. I think both of them are leaders, winners. Obviously, Koulibaly plays for Napoli, so he's not winning that much. But what he's done in the Champions League and the performances he's put forward in the Champions League, it's very few center backs can perform at that level in the world. Same thing with Sergio Ramos. Yes, he's older. He's 36, but I promise you he would walk in and immediately there'd be a culture change. He's just that type of competitor. He's that type of leader. Thiago Silva has had an effect on Chelsea. Obviously, he's been hurt for a few weeks, but when he walked into that side, he brought a level of leadership to that backline that they were desperately missing. So I think we need an experienced center back in there. I'll go with Aiden to start this one. Where would you go?
Just to put it out there, every single center back that's available at the moment is bad. They're not good. If I'm 100% real with you, I don't think Koundé is that good, really. I think he's mid, to be honest. I think Konate is very good, but he's always injured. Pamecano's gone to Bayern. Varane, I think he could come in, but the thing is, when I watch Maguire, I just see a timid centre-back. And I think Varane, when I don't see him next to someone that's a bit more commanding, like Kimpembe or Ramos, I see a bit of a timid centre-back. So there's no one that I look at and I think, come to United, really, apart from Ramos. But then again, he's 36 and 100% he'd come in and do a brilliant job for a few years, but he'd be gone soon. So, I mean, Varane will make us incredibly much better, but there's no one that I look at and think, you're perfect. Really, Kimpembe, but he's never going to leave PSG. So, yeah.
I'll go to James. What do you think, bro?
I was sort of similar to Aiden. There's not centre backs coming out of the ears of the footballing world at the minute. They're at a bit of a premium. So I think if we're keeping it realistic, I think given I wasn't too sure on them, but then after doing research on left-footed centre backs, I've realised how important they are to where United want to play. So probably go with a Pau Torres or a David Alaba, one of those two. I think Alaba's more of a guaranteed sort of finished product type thing, but it's whether he's got that longevity in him, and also if he's got the physical presence to be a centre back in the Premier League and work alongside Maguire. So I'd say one of those two, because I've not seen enough of Pau Torres to go, this is the man that we need. But I think he's probably one of the best left-footed centre backs realistically available.
Good shout. Very good shout. I think that David Alaba is one of my favorite players just in general because of what he can do playing. Honestly, if we bought him, I think I'd throw him in midfield. I'm not exaggerating. I literally immediately throw him in midfield if we were to ever get him and just keep playing Maguire and Lindelof. No exaggerations there because he's that good of a player. But no, those are all fair shouts there. Rome, what would you do? Mute again, buddy.
Mute again. Yeah, but I'll go with Milenkovic from Fiorentina. I've been watching him for a while. He's been linked with Manchester United for like 2 or 3 seasons now, and I think he'll be the perfect complement for Lindelof or Maguire. So I don't think it'll be a bad shout. And I told you guys from the beginning that I like Lewis Dunk. So I mean, I think he's very commanding. He's a good. He can get up and get the goal for you as well. So Milenkovic or Lewis Dunk.
All fair shouts. We'll answer a couple more questions and then we'll be out of here. Joe says, "Where are James Classic?"
They're broke, so I'm wearing contacts at the minute.
Oh wow, yeah. Joe always has to get a shot in that James, no matter what. It's like whatever stream we're on and Joe finds James on it, he's gonna give him some shit. It's really funny, honestly. I can't lie. John Cremona says, "Sorry, it's my." Don't worry. Ask as many questions as you want on this stream. You know what I'm saying? We have another week of international break. We're gonna be asking. We're gonna have a lot of fun with these Q&As. This one's been great as well. The question is, what league position do you think we'll finish in? Do you think we will win the Europa League? I will start with Rome on this one. What do you think?
Well, we're going to finish second. In terms of winning the Europa League, yes, we should. I think we should be winning the Europa League. Should. There's no one left in there that I think could beat Manchester United on their day. Of course, Arsenal is still in there, but I think we should be winning the Europa League, no doubt.
I don't know if I disagree or not. I'll answer at the end. But Aiden, what do you think?
I have more faith of us finishing second than I do winning the Europa League, if I'm completely honest. I wouldn't be surprised. This is just me being honest. I wouldn't be surprised if Chelsea finish above us. I think we've got Leeds, we've got Villa, we've got Burnley, we've got Liverpool, and we've got one other team left to play that's hard. I can't remember who. Wolves, all left, and Villa. I've said Villa. So we've got a lot of hard teams left to go. We should win the Europa League. There's no reason why we shouldn't. But I just feel like Jammy, Roma, or Ajax. I think we're more likely to beat Ajax. I think Roma are a bit more defensive than Ajax. Ajax a bit more open. But yeah, I'd say second, and we're not going to win the Europa League if I had to gun to my head sort of that side.
Fair enough. James, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we'll either come second or win the Europa League. I think it's not realistic to think of both, especially with how tight this top 4 race is becoming. I mean, I'd hope we've got enough of an advantage already on Chelsea to get ahead of them, but we've seen firsthand how good Leicester are. So to be 1 point ahead of them with 9 games to go is not enough of a cushion to feel comfortable. So, I'd say we should win the Europa League, like everyone was saying, given the competition, given the teams in the competition that are left. But this is United. You never know which United is going to turn up. So I say you're either going to do one or the other. You can't really realistically do both. But I'll say we're more likely to finish second.
Man, I think I echo those sentiments. I think we're gonna. I'm scared that we're gonna drop out a second and not quit the Europa League. That would be so frustrating. That would be so frustrating. But if we can get that Europa League, it's like
so good, man.
It would be so good. I'm hard on Ali. I think, you can take away positives from Ali. You can take away some negatives. But if he can get the monkey off of his back of a trophy, we can kind of go into the next season feeling a little bit more confident. You know what I'm saying? Like, he broke that hurdle as a manager. You know what I'm saying? And once you get that, I think a lot of our issue is it's a mental hurdle as opposed to a physical one. Like Sevilla last season. We dominated that game. But it meant we couldn't get over the line mentally. And the big mistakes and big moments costed us. We should win the Europa League. We definitely should. But I fear we won't. If I'm being honest, I think we'll finish second, and I think that we probably won't win the Europa League. This is a funny question. We don't really have to answer it seriously, but with the rumors that we're looking at center back, right wing, and striker, how much bleach will you be throwing in your eyes when McFred start next season every game for us? I told myself if we are starting McFred next season, I'm not letting Ollie off the hook for that. He needs to beg the board. Like if we're serious, and if he's serious, in my opinion, he needs to beg that board for at least one other central midfield player, because there's just a quality deficiency. It's sad when we're going up against Mate and Kessie, and it just looks like they look like Ndidi and John Obi Mikel together. It's like, what is going on here? Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. It's ridiculous. So no, I'll let Aiden answer this question. Nope, not that one. Aiden, would you take Dembele even with his injury record? We can ask the guys this too. Probably be the last question.
You know me, I love Dembele. I love him so much, man. He's one of my favorite players in the world. I'd say I think Dembele's got all the ability in the world. I've always said that. He just needs to stay fit. I'd let him stay at Barcelona for the rest of the season, see what happens. If he managed to stay fit for the rest of the season, if he was offered, mate, I'd 100% get Dembele. To be honest, Dembele could probably go for 50, 60 million. He wouldn't even go for that much. If you could get Dembele and Sancho, bro, yeah, I'd take Dembele. If he got to the end of the season without being injured, which he looks like he's going to be. So, yeah.
James, what would you do?
He's going to be an improvement, isn't he? You know, you're not going to turn him down, but it all depends on the price, doesn't it? Like Aiden said, his injury record speaks for itself. So if you're going to pay 60, 70 million, which our board probably would, they'd pay 100 million if Barcelona asked. If Dembele's a big name, so the United board are thinking, well, Barcelona paid 120 million for him, so you know we may as well pay the same for him. That's a bit of a bargain. So if you're paying that sort of money, then no, I think sort of 50 million range, for a player of Dembele's quality, you're laughing, aren't you?
Yeah. Rome, what do you think about this?
I don't think Dembele wants to be a footballer, bro. I think Dembele I think he's just good, and he's so good that he has no choice but to play.
It's true.
That's how I've seen him, man. This man would rather be at home playing Fortnite, and he's just enjoying the weather in Spain, to be honest with you. But I'd rather leave him where he is and just play Ahmad if I have to.
Yeah. I kind of echo those sentiments. Not exactly like forgive me, but I think he is so overrated. Like, and that's not saying he's not a good player. Like, you know what I'm saying? He's obviously a wonderful like he's a top talent, but in terms of production, like, you know, the way people talk about Pogba at Manchester United, like some anti-Pogba haters, is the way everyone should be talking about Dembele. That's literally, he's never fit. You know, he doesn't perform consistently. Even when he was at Dortmund, if you look at his numbers at Dortmund, obviously
Dortmund, he got 22 assists and 10 goals in one season.
Yeah. I'm saying yes. I'm saying obviously he had a. I'm talking about he's never put two seasons together where you're saying, whoa, okay. Like Jadon Sancho, for instance. To me, Jadon Sancho is a better player. I would take Jadon Sancho. Jadon Sancho has consistently performed at a high level for longer, and he's younger. Like it's just, I don't know. I think Dembele is a top talent, but just vastly overrated. I will
never forgive him for letting the Scousers win the Champions League. If he hasn't missed that goal, they would have never won. I'm done with Dembele. Nightmares.
Yeah, no, he's a top talent, but I would obviously, if he came to United, like, what are you gonna say? Oh my God, Dembele is here? Like, no. But it's just, I feel like I think he would become a fan. He would be a poster boy. He would be the new Pogba if he came to Manchester United. Like, they would just rip him to pieces.
They would.
I'll ask one more question, and we'll be quick about this one. One more question. I'll let these guys go. It's been a great stream. Obviously, man, we have the guys who know football. I like talking to people who know football. You feel me? Like,
yeah, trust me.
Like, when you talk to people on, like, sometimes on Twitter, people will like respond back to me. I'm like, I can tell you don't watch anything. Like, just by your response, I know you don't watch shit. So I genuinely enjoy getting on these streams, hitting up these guys. They always are showing love to me and All for United. You feel me? And they know football, man. It's always good conversation, even if we don't agree. Ollie said he's been impressed with McTominay, Bruno Shaw, and Rashford's progression this season. Thoughts? I'll start with this one. I'll be quick. I don't think Rashford's progressed this season. I really don't. I think he had a better season last season. Like, so let's call this. I thought he was way better last season. Bruno, I think it's about the same. Obviously, his impact in terms of winning us games, he's always, dead balls. We know what he does. He comes up in big moments. McTominay is definitely a hit or miss as well. It's like, yes, the goal tally has gone up, but has he improved technically? No. I just think he's become more mature, for lack of a better term. And I think there's other players. I think AWB has improved on the ball tremendously. Like, out of all the players that you just mentioned, I think AWB in terms of technical ability has come on a treat this season. I'll go to Aiden. What do you think about this, bro?
McTominay, no. He's still absolutely woeful apart from the goals he scored. I do not like McTominay. I did say to my mate back in September that McTominay was a better finisher than Rashford, which I still believe, but that's a side point. Rashford, he's stayed good. I don't think technically he's developed that much. He's just done what I expected of Rashford being a good player. Bruno stayed the same. Shaw's got better, but I think all it was is unlocking the ability. I always think he's had the ability. I never think he's developed it. I just think he's showing it now. But McTominay, if you took out McTominay's goals, mate, he's having a woeful season because he's dropped stinkers. I could smell them through the TV. They were that bad. So let's not forget that. Like Leipzig, I could smell it through the TV. So let's not forget that. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, James, what do you think about that?
I mean, I don't hate McTominay as much. I don't think he should be starting for United week in, week out, but he's definitely better than Fred, in my opinion. I think he's become a lot more press resistant as well, which is important. But he still needs to learn how to make a pass longer than 5 yards, which is a big worry at this age and at this level. So I think Rashford, you could say he's developed massively under Solskjaer. I don't think necessarily this season, but you look at like last season was his first double-digit goal tally in the league, and this season he's almost at double digits again. He might even be there. But I mean, he's progressing and he's adding a little bit of consistency. Obviously, there's only so much consistency you can have with the injuries he's getting. But sure, again, it's not an ability thing; it's a confidence thing. He's just playing confident now, and we're seeing he's finally developing on that promise he had at Southampton. I'd say Bruno. I was more excited watching Bruno at the end of last season than I am this season.
Yeah, I agree.
I wouldn't say he's declined in any way, but I wouldn't say he's massively improved.
That's a fair shout. Bruno at the back end of last season was
mad.
It was ridiculous. I don't think he's topped that level this season. I'll be completely blunt, but he's still obviously an impactful player for us, no question. Rome, what do you think about this?
McTominay shite. This definitely shite. That's all that is, bro. It's goals. I mean, he's improved in that regard. Yeah, he scored a few goals, but he cannot pass for shit, bro. It's embarrassing. His passing is embarrassing. I think Bruno has maintained it over since last season. He's only been here for a year and a half, so we can only say that he's maintained because he came in at such a high level and he's still performing. Rashford is, I don't know. I'm so frustrated with Rashford because his decision making is the worst part of his game. Rashford does some good football, plays some good football to get into positions, and when he should pass, he shoots, and when he should be shooting, he's passing.
Yeah.
And so his decision making is so whack. And I can remember 5 games in a row where Rashford gets into great positions to either pass or shoot, and he does the opposite. And so that's very frustrating. So I think Rashford is not improved at all. I think Shaw, of course, has improved, and that, as you said, comes with confidence. But the most improved so far this season has got to be Daniel James, because of the fact that he's actually playing, and when he plays, he represents. Remember, you didn't even see that man throughout the first part of the season, but when he came on, he's been effective. So I think Daniel James that's why you can take pressure and work with it, and Daniel James does that for me. So I think he gets it.
You know what, Rome? That's a fair shout. I think people are really hard. I think people are hard on Dan James, man. Like, I see a lot of people. I think he did something in internationals, like where he remember, it's like the Chris. It's like, remember when Chris Smalling like booted it into the stands, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's terrible on the ball." It's like, come on, one play, like, chill out. Like, come on now, like, I think Dan James actually has been quite reliable. Like, I think people call him shit. And I'm like, he's not shit, man. Like, that's an exaggeration, bro. Another interesting, Rashford 18 goals currently, can get to 25. Is that not a great season? Goals do not make a great season. How you perform 90-minute game is what defines you. Yes, obviously, if you score goals, that's amazing. But I look at a full 90. I think Rashford. I think his overall 90-minute performances last season were better than this season, even though he could get to 25 goals.
Yeah.
That's just me. But we're gonna wrap up, guys. I appreciate it. We're already on an hour 20, guys. These men right here are troopers. James, I appreciate you. Aiden, my guy, I appreciate you. Rome, this is my Jamaican brother, man. This always coming with the facts, bro. I love it. I appreciate y'all, guys. Make sure to follow all of these gentlemen on Twitter. You feel me? Rome, yours is officially Rome.
Officially Rome, yeah.
Yeah, and then Aiden and James's Twitters are in the handles right there. Make sure to follow those guys. Look at all their content. They're always coming with the good facts on Twitter. You feel me? So stick with those brothers right there, guys. We're gonna sign out again. We've done another Q&A show. We have tons and tons more coming for international break. I gotta find my other Nigeria jersey. I don't know where it's hidden. I gotta find that. You know what I'm saying? To keep this international float, this flavor going. You know what I'm saying? But guys, I appreciate y'all and everyone in the comments. We appreciate y'all as well. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All of you. Thank you so much. And we will talk to you all very, very shortly. Deuces.